welcome back, everybody. Just want to welcome you to our podcast. This is Inside Look, and we're going to be talking about girls basketball with head coach Chrissie McGovern from Shawnee High School. So I would like to welcome you to our podcast. Miss Chrissie, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm so glad you could, sit down with me for a little bit and talk. So let's just get started. So tell us about, growing up. Where'd you grow up? And tell us about, high school and things like that.
Yeah, so I actually grew up in Franklinville, New Jersey. And when I was pretty young, my parents moved us to Washington Township. And I spent my childhood there. I wound up going to Gloucester Catholic High School. I went to Catholic school my whole life from kindergarten on up. And what brought me to Gloucester Catholic was I grew up with all boys, big baseball players. Gloucester Catholic's an amazing school for baseball. So I kind of followed suit, and I knew I was going to an amazing program in Gloucester Catholic with Lisa Gedeka. So I spent my time there, and as we were talking previously, kind of was like all over the place of what I wanted to do for college. And, I thought I had the right fit in the University of Sciences to play basketball, and, just kind of thinking about the decisions that I had to make in life. I wound up wanting to stay a little bit closer to home. So I decided to go to county college and then transfer to Rowan. And that's where, I finished my collegiate career playing basketball. And, I was just saying this to you as well, Mike. I think, things happen for a reason. And that's where I met my husband, who was on the boys team. And we've been together ever since. I have two wonderful little boys that keep me on my toes. I have a 10-year-old and a 6-year-old, fourth grade and kindergarten. And that's a little bit about me as far as like kind of where I grew up and where I am now.
That's fantastic. So when did you find that you had a love of basketball? Like at what age did you realize that, hey, I really like this, I want to go after it?
Yeah, so, kind of going back to what I was saying is, I grew up with all boys and, a lot of uncles. And where I kind of found my love of sports is my grandparents kind of had a ton of land down in Franklinville, and our weekends weren't normal weekends for, a typical girl. I would go there every weekend, and we would pick and choose between basketball and baseball and football and tennis. And I just kind of fell in love with basketball. I really enjoyed softball as well. I was actually pretty good. And, I kind of had to make that decision like, most people do as they get older. And, it's like either play AAU basketball and commit to basketball or, play multiple sports. But I think my love for basketball really kind of grew when I was in middle school. I remember my aunt, we used to go and watch just high school games all the time. I remember going and sitting in the Washington Township gym and kind of really all over South Jersey. And I really just enjoyed watching the game of basketball. I would watch the coaches, I would watch the players, I would listen to the speeches. And it kind of just gave me that edge of, hey, I think basketball is kind of where I want to focus.
That's pretty cool. So here you are, you're at Rowan, you're finishing up college, you finish up playing basketball. Obviously, you got to start working. At what point did you decide that you wanted to be a coach? And how did you get involved with coaching?
Yeah, so again, I think that I laid that foundation when I was younger, just going to all those games. And I think a lot of it is, how I learned to play basketball. I never played travel. I learned how to play in my grandparents' backyard of getting beat up by my brother and my cousin who was 6'5", blocking my shot. So I think when I was making that decision of where I wanted to go to college, I started to think about like, what kind of degree do I want? That's why I kind of was like, I don't know if I want medical field. If I coach and I teach, it's like a good combination for me. Some of the girls that I played with at Rowan were teaching majors, and they were a little bit older than me. And I kind of wanted to follow suit. I thought it was something that I really wanted to do. So once I changed my major and went into the teaching route, I was very lucky. Right after I graduated Rowan, I remember we had this like expo for teachers. And I met one of the old principals at Brick Township High School, and he was a Rowan graduate. He was a football player. And he said, hey, listen, we need a health and phys ed teacher and a girls basketball coach. And I was like, oh man, I'm like 21 years old. I'm like, all right, this is perfect. I could do that. I'm like, well, where's Brick Township? I had no idea. I knew it was kind of by the shore. So I wound up graduating, going to Brick, leaving, my family in the township area. And, my husband at the time was living in Mount Laurel. So I went to Brick right out of college, started teaching, and I was the head girls basketball coach there for 4 years. So it seems like ages ago now, but so I was very fortunate to kind of right out of college, get a teaching job and a coaching job.
Wow, that's fantastic. So you spent 4 years at Brick, and then how did you end up at Shawnee where you are now?
Yeah, so Brick was a great experience for me. It was definitely a learning lesson for me. 22 years old, being a head coach and taking over a program that I'm not familiar with. But I did. I think I learned a lot about myself in that moment. But it was tough. I lived there for the first year, and then I started commuting from Mount Laurel. And at that point in time, I was married. I knew I wanted to have a family, and I ultimately knew I didn't want to live there. That I wanted to be back in like the South Jersey area. So after being there for 4 years, I actually went to Cherokee, is where I started teaching before Shawnee. And I was very fortunate that they had some openings for teachers as well as coaches. So I applied. So I started teaching at Cherokee, and I was at Cherokee for 4 years. I was the assistant for Shannon Barretts, who was the coach before Coach Powell. So I spent 4 years at Cherokee, teaching and coaching. And 4 years into that, they were kind of doing some switching around in our departments. So I got transferred to Shawnee. And I remember at first being kind of really upset about it because I enjoyed Cherokee. I enjoyed coaching there, teaching there. So let's see, I went to Shawnee in, I think it was 2008. And when I went over to Shawnee, Coach Anderson, he was the head coach. And, at that point in my life, I had my oldest son. I knew I wanted to have another child. And I really had no desire to be a head coach again. I had that for 4 years. I enjoyed it. I learned a lot about myself, and I kind of liked being an assistant. Felt like I had a lot of control, but not too much control. And when I was at Shawnee, we were really good. And I'll never forget our bus ride home. Coach Anderson's like, "Oh, well, Chrissy, I'm going to step down, so it's going to be your program." And I'm like, wait. I don't know if I'm ready for that again. And it took me some time and some support from my husband to coach. So this is my 8th year as the head coach at Shawnee, and it's been an awesome 8 years.
Wow, that sounds pretty cool. So what was the program like before you got there? Like as far as history, because I don't really know much about like Shawnee basketball. So Coach Anderson, was he there for a long time before you, or?
He coached, I think, for about 6 years. Before him was Coach Santone, Gina Santone. And then there was a gentleman before Gina who was very, very successful. So I think there's probably been about 3 or 4 coaches that I know of before me. It's crazy because when I was in high school at Gloucester Catholic, we were Tri-County. We didn't play many Olympic Conference teams. I don't think I ever played any of the like our district schools. So, I kind of walked into that program, not really knowing the history. I know they had won quite a few South Jersey titles. They've never won a state title. Actually, the last year that before I got there that they won a South Jersey title was in '99, which was my senior year of high school.
Wow.
I walked into an unbelievable team. Actually, two of the girls that I coached are on the staff with me now, and 2 other girls that I coached at Cherokee are also on my staff. So I work with 4 awesome female role models that were all previous players of mine.
That's pretty cool. I mean, it's nice to see that, you had some girls that were, once players now coaching with you, and now, working with the next generation of players, which is really, really nice,
It really is. And, I tell my girls all the time, I'm like, listen, you have unbelievable role models right here. Most of them played collegiately in athletics, and they're just good people that are passionate about the game. So I feel fortunate to work with them. I think I'm trying to teach them some of the things that I've learned along the way of coaching. And it's been good. So, so in 8 years, my first year we won Group 4. It was awesome. And then that was in 2014. And then 2015, we won Group 4 again, back to back. So there were some exciting times.
So 2013 and 14, you said? Those were the
2013-14 was my first year taking over for Coach Anderson, and I was pregnant, due in April. I don't know how I did it, and yeah, we were playing RV, and they were so good, and we actually pulled out a win against them, and then we beat Lenape in the finals.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, that's amazing. You figure for your first year walking into a really good situation as far as team, and then just building on that success over the past couple of years, which is fantastic. That's great. So how would you describe yourself as like a coach? You know, like when you're coaching, you know, what are some things that you really key in on? Like what's your philosophy as far as coaching and coaching style?
So I think I've learned to, over the years, I think every year I learn more about myself and I evaluate myself. And, I think for me, it's like positivity so much, but it's also like life lessons. I think when I first started coaching, I was so young, I didn't get it. I remember we would lose a game, I would be so mad at the girls. And I think I've learned that what I'm teaching them now is going to provide so much success for them in the future. I tried to give them so many real life experiences, and we just had some meetings with some kids today, and I said, the leadership that you bring every day into the program and the effort that you do every day in practice is going to make you not only successful as a basketball player, but successful in life. So my philosophy is teaching these girls to deal with adversity and to overcome, all right, to stand up for themselves, to be accountable, to be leaders, and give the utmost effort they can in every moment of the opportunity that they're given in high school athletics.
Yeah, I mean, I think all those things carry over to life, high school, college, going into their careers. That's just fantastic. So what kind of things do you really look at when you look at a player that, you really feel like, wow, this is going to be a kid that can really make a difference in our program? Like what kind of interpersonal qualities do you think are important?
Definitely someone who is completely coachable, and just effort. I say there's two things that you can control, right? You can control your effort and you can control your attitude. And over the years, I've had teams where I didn't have any real basketball players. I had lacrosse players and soccer players. All right. But what I love about a kid is the effort that they're going to bring, and I always say, if you want to play defense, you're going to play for me. And I think that's kind of where we try to pride ourselves. And that's like the culture that we bring into our program is toughness. I love toughness. I don't know if you've ever read Jay Billis's book on toughness,
No,
but
I haven't.
you should have Gabby read it. It is phenomenal. I started reading it. I used it with the team that won, 8 years ago now, 7 years ago. And then I started to bring it back with this group this year. So it talks not only about like toughness in athletics, but toughness in life. So what I look for is a kid that is going to give me the utmost effort, but also have those leadership qualities of giving, the perfect attitude as far as coachable is concerned.
Wow. I'm going to ask you a tough question. How do you juggle being a mom of two younger boys? Like how do you do it all? Because I know in my house the mom pretty much runs the house, and they have a lot of responsibility. And then of course the girls are in my family, and the boys, obviously my son, they always want mom. So I know that it probably it's your husband picking up a lot of the slack. Obviously he's he's a great guy. Mitch is fantastic, but how do you do it as a mom? Like how do you survive?
I don't know. I really don't. Sometimes it's a blur. And I would just say it's because I've been coaching so long, like some stages were easier than others. I will say it is getting so much harder that they're older because, as we talked about before, they're both heavily involved in sports and activities. And to be honest, I feel guilty a lot of the time. I really, really do. I want to be the mom that's home and taking care of the kids. I've always worked, so it's the boys know, mommy's going to school, mommy's working. My little guy doesn't even think I teach. He just thinks I coach. Mommy coaches basketball. I'm like, honey, mommy goes to school and teaches every day too. But it is tough, but I have a great support system. I have to attribute it to Mitch, my husband. If he wasn't as supportive as he was, I would never, ever, ever be able to do this. And he has allowed me to coach, and he picks up so much slack. He's very, very supportive. And I luck out because, his job does lead to some flexibility when he's not traveling. I have my in-laws, I have my parents, I have friends that will help me out. But yeah, there's definitely been days and times over the years where, that guilt sets in. But I feel like I take it, year by year, and I tell the girls that and everyone else. And this year's just been such a breath of fresh air with these guys. So I try my best. I know I'm not perfect. My boys love me coaching. They hate the fact that they're not in the gym cheering. They love the girls. So we try our best to make it work.
Yeah, it's hard now, especially with COVID. I mean, like normally your kids could probably come to work with you and sit in the bleachers and watch what the girls are warming up or practicing, or, but now it's like everything is just different. I mean, thankfully this year we got a season and we're able to play. And for everybody, the focus is just to, enjoy every game, and really just take this opportunity to, just enjoy the moment with your teammates and your coaches. So, that's a nice thing. And plus it's a shortened season, so it's not as stressful. But the problem is that every game is really so critical in the fact that, any game could be canceled, at the snap of a finger because, a team that you're playing with or playing against, they have a COVID situation and now your game's canceled and now you're scrambling. So you're trying to, match up. And since you can only have a max number of games, finding an opponent that's going to, give you, flexibility in your schedule that's willing to play you is really, really tough. Luckily, you've been able to juggle that and make it work. But I mean, it's definitely challenging. So let's talk about, last year, because I'll tell you what, we have a lot of friends at Shawnee. I mean, the schools are so close together, Shawnee, Lenape, Seneca, that the kids basically grow up, knowing each other through playing travel and playing with each other and training with each other. I always followed, Shawnee. I think, Shawnee has been a great program, especially since you've got there. I've, followed it a lot more. And last year was like unbelievable because, I followed the season and there were some games where I felt that were winnable. And, maybe everything wasn't clicking in the middle of the season because I didn't watch the live stream, but I was following along, getting updates from Nia Scott's dad. I mean, we still do it now where we're texting each other during our games. What's going on? What's going on? Who's this? What's going, And, there was some times where he's like, oh man, we just, at the end, we just couldn't hold the lead or we just couldn't pull it out. And I'm like, that means you're almost there. Like you just got to break through that plateau. And I think things are going to happen. So can you talk about like what it was like from the beginning of the season? I mean, you had 4 seniors, you had a freshman that starts, and then all of a sudden the transition to the team that takes you to the playoffs. Like what happened over the course of the year?
Yeah, I mean, a ton of growth, and just a ton of, we are going to show up every day and put in the work, whether we're 13-0 or 0-13. And I think some of those games were so winnable, and I think I've learned over the years, like peaks and valleys, right? Peaks and valleys. There's going to be really good highs that are awesome wins and awesome moments. And then there's going to be the lows of the lows, and I think we were in that low for such a long time. I mean, listen, the Olympic is brutal. It's tough, right? I mean, we play some really good teams against some really good coaches. So every day is like a fight, whether we're playing, a completely talented team and an unbelievable coach. So I think we just didn't have that ability to overcome. A lot of those losses were a basket, all right, overtime losses. But again, like I think I attribute it to the growth and the adversity that we started to overcome. Every single day, these girls did not quit on me. They didn't quit on each other. They didn't quit on the program. We would come to practice the next day. Okay, who do we have next and what do we have to do? What's the game plan? How are we going to prepare? And there were some like low moments for me, like I would question myself as a coach and, because I always want to look at myself first. And, then we just started turning it around. We just had some games like towards the end of the year where those opportunities that we weren't closing out, we were not closing out. And then, playoffs came, which we were lucky to even get into the playoffs as that 14th seed. And I remember saying, girls, we just want that opportunity to get in the playoffs. All right. We are ready for the playoffs because we play in the Olympic and these teams are so good and we're going to be ready for it. And sure enough, we were. We just played Washington Township right before that. They were so good. It was such a good game. It was kind of close. We wound up losing. And then all of a sudden our mindset was like, let's go playoffs. All right, one at a time. Let's play Clearview. Here's the game plan. I know we can beat them. And I told them during that playoff run, I said, I feel like our season was supposed to happen this way. And I think like when I said it, they were like, oh my gosh, you're right. Like all those losses and those bad moments set us up for the success that we were going to have in the playoffs. And it wasn't me, it was them. And it was them never quitting on me and quitting on themselves.
Well, let's go through this playoff run because it was really exciting. Like I said, I was in the gym and we're literally getting text messages back and forth. I mean, because it's so funny. You think I want to say back then, but it's only like a year ago. We didn't even have the streaming capabilities.
I know.
Now, like this is amazing. And now I watched your game against Haddon Heights. Like I watched the game against Winslow. Like I'm able to see like this is great. I mean, I'm able to really witness it. But before I would be waiting for a text. And of course, the text doesn't work in the gym. So it takes like 20 minutes and like, there's 2 minutes left in the game. And I'm wondering what happened. They win, they lose. Tell us about the Clearview game. And I mean, that was a big team. I mean, they had some major players. They had two really high quality freshmen. I know Bella Steidel was on the team. I mean, she's going to Loyola now. So, I mean, they had a team and they were pretty top and pretty good in South Jersey. So tell us about the game.
Yeah, I mean, I knew that was going to be a tough draw, but I went into the preparation of having confidence that we play such a tough, brutal schedule that I knew that we were going to be able to compete with them. They were a phenomenal team. Bella did really well against us. We wound up face guarding her. And then their two freshmen, Nia had one of them and pretty sure she shut Battle down to only a handful of points. I think our girls executed our game plan really well. With the face guard, we kind of took Bella out of the game. She didn't have many easy opportunities. I thought we executed offense really well. I remember Kay DeVinny hit like a big time shot at the end of the game. They started pressing us. We stayed composed. And I think that's where the growth came, because if that would have happened probably 3 weeks prior, we wouldn't have been able to close that game out. And it was awesome. I mean, listen, 14 seed being a 3 seed. And I think that's where these girls just had like the mindset of like, all right, this is it. Like if we lose, we're done, and you, as a coach, you always tell your kids that in playoffs, but I really think my kids took that mentality. We then went and we played Jackson. We went up to Jackson. And again, another really tough team, watching them on film. I'm like, how are we going to guard, these two players that, you have.
Tanza and Giordano. And Christina Tanza, at that point, she had already broken, I think, the school record for scoring at Jackson Memorial. She's now going to Navy. And then you have Bianca Giordano. I don't think is playing because I think she goes to East Stroudsburg, but I don't think they had a season. I think their season was canceled because of COVID. And she's another like really, really phenomenal, point guard with a lot of high energy. I mean, they're used to scoring like a lot of points. Like I think they're averaging 50, 60, 70 points a game.
Yeah. And then they have Rachel, the one that drives to the basket. Yeah, they were good. I was fortunate enough to get a lot of film on them and really kind of just break down their offense. And, we had everything that they were doing scouted. Again, we face guarded their best player, and we took them out of their rhythm. I mean, they were not able to knock down shots. Yeah. I thought we executed our offense. I thought we walked into that game well planned, well prepared. So again, it was another game where I'm like, I think if we play well, we follow the game plan, and we can face guard, that we can win. And I almost felt like we played so hard that they kind of gave up at times. So that was an amazing game. I remember Nia just dominating on both ends of the floor. So we were able to walk out of there with a win. And again, I remember one of my assistants saying, Chrissy, this team is refusing to lose. And I was like, I know, and it's the greatest feeling ever. And then here we are going into the Olympic now. So we have Lenape, and we had lost to Lenape twice during the regular season. Rob does such a great job, and they were ready to go. We knew what kind of shooters they have, and I didn't feel like we played our best against them in the regular season. For us to shut down Lenape, we gotta close out on their shooters. We started that game, we were down like 10, 12 points early on. And I remember at the end of the first quarter, we sat down and we said, okay, what are we going to do? And we wound up starting switching screens. And as soon as we started switching screens and closing out on their shooters, it was a whole nother ball game. We inched it out. I think it was close at halftime. And in the second half, we said, we need to go to our strength. And our strength is our inside game. So we started feeding Nia in the post. They had a difficult time covering Nia. Unfortunately for them, they missed some foul shots at the end. And we were able to close out like a really, really close game with them to make it to the South Jersey final.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like to me in the beginning of the season, fitting Nia in to the team as far as chemistry, took time, because if you look at the end of the season, I mean, a good majority of her points really comes towards the second half of the season. And I think, there's that level where she's a freshman. We need time to feel like we can trust her. Not that she's not a good player, because she's a phenomenal player. I love her. You know what I mean? But the other players on the court have to realize, like, oh, this is what she can do. I can get the ball to her. I know she's going to do this. I know she's going to do that. So that chemistry really just kicked in at the end of the season. I mean, you're lucky it's not COVID, because, you would be just getting warm at 15 games. And that now 15 games, your season's over. But I think, Nia catching fire and realizing that, you're going to pound the paint and she's going to work, she's going to work down low. I think that was really a big, big key to your success in the postseason. And then we had, I thought a really, really, really awesome game between Shawnee and Cherokee. And the nice part was it was packed.
Oh my gosh, I know.
There was a single seat in the house. I mean, I think at one point I had to give up my seat, and I just focused on, taking pictures and doing some video, because there was literally no seats in the house. I mean, it was really packed. I mean, that's a nice thing about, Shawnee being so close to Cherokee. Even the football games, it gets so crowded. Like, people are parking in the street. I mean, the stadium's full, and that's what you want the game to be. With the draw, you want the kids to really feel like, wow, this is important to me. This is a big game. Fans are here. You want them to feel the energy and excitement of a true, South Jersey finals. And it really was. I mean, the game was phenomenal. I mean, it was really close most of the game. Maybe you could talk a little bit about it. And
you know what? It's so great for girls to play in that kind of atmosphere. I mean, that's something that they're going to remember forever, and look back on it. Yeah, and I, again, going against such a talented team in Cherokee and a very well-coached team with Ron, we knew we had to play a really, really, really almost perfect game to be able to pull out a win. And the nice thing I remember going into that game and the practices leading up to it was my girls were so confident, and it was so good to see. And I think it's just, those wins that they had before, they just had like a sense like, hey, listen, we can beat anybody, So I do think that they came into that game with confidence, which for me was just so awesome to see. We hung in, we played tough. I mean, I've watched the game on Huddle at least 10 times. I just give it the credit. I mean, Cherokee, if you make a mistake, they are going to capitalize. And unfortunately, what had started to happen in the third quarter was we had two bad possessions where Cherokee had two fast break layups, and all of a sudden a close game is now a 6-point game. Yep. And, we're having to play defense for 45 seconds because Cherokee's hitting us with 10 screens and running offense and cutting hard. And I think we kind of just like fizzled out. And I give the Cherokee girls and the coaching staff a lot of credit. I do think that we came to play. And I think it was good for my girls. It was a good learning experience, especially for some of my younger kids that, hey, listen, good teams are going to capitalize on your mistakes, and it almost has to be flawless.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think for Shawnee, that was like a really great way to finish the season, because it really, you talk about toughness, but it really teaches a lesson, and you can use that season to teach the girls, like, you hung in there, you never gave up, you kept on practicing, you kept on working, you kept on growing, you kept on developing the relationship and trust with your teammates, you listened to your coaches, you just came in with the the mindset that you're just going to go out there and compete and give them your best game. I mean, it really caught fire at the end. I'll tell you what, like, I was worried, and we were all worried, like, oh man, like, Shawnee's got a tough run, but then you win the first game. And I knew you guys were going to be good when you beat Jackson Memorial, because, they're just a phenomenal team.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was like the boost of confidence you needed to get past Lenape, because you figure, Lenape beat you twice during the season, you figure, oh, they must have your number, but you get past that to get to Cherokee. Like you said, I mean, I think it was, maybe at like midway through the third quarter, where there was some key possessions, and the points, it was like by 2 points, and all of a sudden it just swung right away. And
Yeah.
I think by that point, it's 6 points in a tight game. It can be tight. It could be really hard to overcome. I mean, Shawnee the whole time, I mean, they were really just deadly. I mean, they were coming down. They were working the low post with Nia. I mean, outside shots, moving the ball around. I mean, it was not an easy game for Cherokee to win. I mean, but that's what you want. I mean, Shawnee played like amazing. So, I mean, to
Thank
me,
you.
just imagine these kids as they keep on growing and developing. So you finish off, you make the finals, you have a really good group. Now, how do you transition to COVID and losing, I think, what, 4 seniors? And they were four seniors that were really key
Yeah.
players for your team. I mean, you have a whole new identity now. So how do you adjust?
Yeah, I mean, we had four seniors, three were starters. Sienna was 1,000 point scorer. We had Gia, who was our point guard, Flamini, Erin Florio, who was like my defensive, dog. Anything I needed, she was going to do. Kira Hartman came off the bench for me. So I did know that it was going to be a little bit different this year, but I was very excited going into this year. I mean, I knew that having Nia as a sophomore and gaining all of that experience was going to be great. I knew we had some younger sophomores who, Nicole Miller, who was injured all of last year. If she was healthy last year, she would have been playing varsity. So I think she was someone that, I knew that we were going to be able to count on. Kay Divini, as she grew as a freshman, I knew she was going to be able to, step into some roles. I have some seniors that were juniors last year who had to work every day in practice and gain whatever little minutes that they can, and Livia Pagluso, Megan Hine, who was starting for us last year, who actually is even coming off the bench now. Quinn Feutner is doing an excellent job. She's a senior this year. Taylor Kelly is another one of my seniors who comes in off the bench. And Kiki Kelhair, who didn't even play for me last year, she played 2 years ago. She's a big soccer player, and her team had went to that like academy level. So I have her back. And then, we were very, very fortunate to have Avery Kessler come over. I mean, Mike, she's a game changer.
Yeah, that's one of Gabby's best friends. So we know their family very well. I love all the kids. You know what I mean? Like, whether they play with us, for us, against us, if they're our friends, I mean, I follow these kids. I mean, the relationship that, we've made with these families, I mean, their kids are just great. I mean, I was disappointed when Nicole Miller hurt her knee. We've known her growing up through all the years, and I think it's just devastating, because I felt so sorry. Because imagine, like, you spend all your years training, you go to these games, they're coming to your camps.
Yeah.
And as a little girl, they're like, man, I can't wait to play on this court. And all of a sudden now you get hurt and you lose your season. I mean, that's really tough. So I really felt for her. I mean, and she definitely would have helped you last year with her outside shooting. I mean, it gives you another weapon, through the season, and maybe you have a different season. I mean, it works out differently, but your team now is really kind of transformed. And I like Megan Heim coming off the bench. I mean, you have a really, really strong player as your sixth man or sixth woman. I mean, that makes you even better. A lot of teams, they dip. they go to their bench and now it dips in talent level because they put all of their eggs in one basket. And when they need like a key jolt of energy or a boost, they don't have it because the player, skill level drops. But when you have players who've contributed in the past, who've played varsity for a number of years, who've started varsity, when you get that player to come in, it's like, boom, it's like the jolt you need. And it's like, wow, it kind of catches the other teams off guard. And I think that's, a secret, for you guys. Well, hopefully it's not a secret anymore. But it's just something that really is going to help you, this season. So, what are some things that you had to adjust this year? Like as far as, maybe your training, your practices, I mean, even just getting together. I know like, your big thing is, your team and the bonding and the time and the chemistry that they spend. There's no pasta parties. There's no, I mean? How are you adjusting or what are you doing?
I know. And that's kind of like we talked about before, like, do I want to win? Yes. And I tell the kids, no one wants to win, more than me, right? But I think there's also another side of playing high school athletics and forming friendships and forming bonds and looking back on it 10 years from now and, not how many games you won, but, the experience that you have. So, I do feel bad. I really do, because I'm racking my brain, like, how can I make this a normal season for these kids? I have these 5 seniors that, have been in my program and will run through a wall. How do I make it special for them? And, you can't have a pasta party, we can't have, a pizza in the gym or, all the team bonding stuff that we used to do. We could have done something. We just did something. We painted some canvases with some quotes. But I really think like the change is like trying to condense a full season into a short amount of time, which I'm sure the other coaches would tell you is just so stressful. I think about how many more weeks I have left. I'm like, I'm not even like 20% putting in what I would even want to put into a season. So I think I've had to adjust, not that I've changed my expectation because, it's still high, but like adjust the way that I'm doing things. We're not putting in all this stuff that we used to because we can't even perfect the first couple of things, I give my kids a lot of credit because I think they've adapted to the situation better than I have. I think they're grateful for every moment that they've been giving. Our practices have been nothing but intense and joyful experiences. And I think it's because, what life has been like for them. Think about their life has been turned upside down and now all of a sudden they get to compete again in the sport that they love. They're just excited to be there. So it really has been a fresh breath of air or a breath of fresh air.
So I haven't asked this question to many coaches. I haven't asked any coaches. What's it like playing in an empty gym, like versus, because you figure the way you ended the season, like I said, there was not a seat. I mean, people were standing against the walls by the entrances because there was no spots in the gym. And now, you're only limited to your team and I guess cheerleaders. Like, what's it like playing without the fans?
You know what? In the beginning, and not that we've played that many games, but I think like, the first scrimmage or whatever, and we're like, oh my gosh, this is so, so weird. Our dance team is in there, and believe it or not, my JV team, they are phenomenal. They sit across from us. They cheer so loud. It's actually so loud in the gym because of them. They show me their hands after the games and they're red from clapping. So yeah, I owe them the world. They're awesome. I honestly just keep going back to like, I just think the kids are so grateful that they even have an opportunity to play. I really do. I think whatever they're getting is gravy and they're just taking it in stride.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's all in your attitude. And I think, if you get good positive attitude from your coaches, it's just going to trickle down to the captains and then trickle down to the team. And that's what I wanted to ask you. Like, tell us about your captains this year. Who are your captains, and what do you expect them to do as far as responsibilities on the court, in the locker room, and with the team?
Yeah, so it's all 5 of our seniors are our captains, and honestly, they're very deserving. They all bring so much to the team in different ways. So, we have Olivia Pagluso. She's starting for us this year. She's one of our captains. She's so unselfish. You have Megan Hine, who, we talked about coming off the bench, and I've had a couple of conversations. I talked to Meg again, and, because her role has changed significantly. And I said, Meg, listen, some people in your position put their head down. They would be negative. They'd say, oh, I don't want to lead this team anymore. She's done the complete opposite. She's like taken this team under her wings, and she is one of the nicest kids. I really can't tell you how much I respect these seniors. Quinn Futer's the same way. Quinn's actually been starting for us, sometimes depending on who we're playing and strategy and that kind of stuff. Sometimes she plays a lot, sometimes she doesn't. I remember her as a freshman being so vocal. And we have Taylor Kelly, who's another player I talked to today, again, praising her leadership, her work ethic and practice, and, not getting the minutes that, any senior wants, but you would never know it in her attitude. And then I have Kiki Kelhair, like I said, who came back. Kiki's been a dream. Kiki works her butt off. She's so unselfish, just like Pags. I think these 5 seniors recognize like this is it, and we're going to make the most of it. My younger girls 100% respect them, as do myself and the coaches.
That's great. So have you made any plans of how you would like to celebrate your seniors, and when is your senior day? Have you picked it yet?
Yeah, we're actually going to do it this coming Tuesday. Yeah, so I was going to do it the first week, and I just kind of want to get a week of games under our belt. So we're going to do it Tuesday. My underclassmen are great. They already, setting up. We're doing, a bunch of speeches. I'm going to have the parents outside taking some pictures with the kids. We've done gifts for them. We're just going to try to make it real special. We're going to record our junior speeches to the seniors to send to the parents. It's heartbreaking. As a parent, could you imagine, you're not in there for your daughter's senior night. So, we're just going to try our best to make it as special as we can. Yeah,
that's the hardest part. Like, I think about these seniors, and some of them won't go on to play in college. Some of them are going to decide, I made my run. I want to focus on academics. I want to focus on my career, and that's totally fine. But the thing that bothers me is that they don't get a chance for their parents to get in there one last time. And I'm holding out hope that at the end of the season, because they just increased indoor capacity for dining from 25% to 35%. Maybe there's a glimmer of hope that maybe for the last week or something like that, they'll let these parents go, even if it's just the home parents. And if I don't go, and I tell this to everybody, like, I want to see my kid, but if it means that a senior parent doesn't get to go see their kid, I will gladly give up my seat and I'll go outside. My kid's going to be there for a couple more years. Yeah. I just, those kinds of things, they just bother me. And I just don't know, what we can do. I just hope, that the NJSIA decides they'll reverse their decision and give it a go, because I know that I want to say Pennsylvania's allowing fans. New York's going to start basketball. I think they just started basketball beginning of February for 4 weeks, and they're going to let fans in, I think, for 2 weeks to do a trial to see, like, why not just give the parents a chance. That's all. We're not greedy. Give them at least one game. Make it one game. If it's their senior game. I know. I really think I am holding on to that glimmer of hope, like you said. I've read the articles, and they talked about, I've talked to my athletic director, and he was like, there might be a chance. There might be a chance. And I think I don't want to wait for that chance. So I think what we're going to do is we're just going to have our senior night this week coming up, and then we'll do it a second time come end of February, that first week of March, if we're able to. Well, plus the other thing that you run into is, what if you're playing the last game and that game gets canceled because of COVID, because of the other team? Like, now you have no opportunity. So I think you're doing the right thing. You celebrate them now, and you can celebrate them again later. Like, just have more parties. What's the difference, Hey, listen, these kids, they deserve it, right? After all they've been through, they deserve more than one senior night if we can. Gives them something to look forward to. So absolutely. Let's talk about, maybe a couple of things, and we'll finish up. So thinking about your team this year, going in and game out. I'm not talking about strategy, but what are your keys to success? Like, what is Shawnee girls basketball? What do they have to do, every game in order for them to compete and to be competitive and have an opportunity to win? So what are some key things that you would list for your team? Yeah, and I think they're the 3 same things that we talk about every game, and I talk about every day in practice. And I think these are 3 areas where we really need to improve upon. Defense. I have always prided myself in defense, as a player, as a coach. The culture of our program is we're tough defenders. So I think for us to win games, we have to want to buy in. I told them the other day, it's great to say, I'm going to play defense, but you internally have to want to play defense. So we've been talking a lot about that, and I tell them all the time, listen,
it doesn't take any type of talent to play defense. It takes talent to be able to score, shoot threes, slash, drive, whatever. Play defense, all it takes is heart and effort. So our keys are always defense. You know, we want to defend. We want to make it uncomfortable for the other team to be able to run offense to score. And the next thing we always have to do is we have to take care of the basketball. I think it's one area where we're kind of lackadaisical with it. You know, we make some mental mistakes. We're not sometimes focused. If we don't take care of the basketball, we're not going to put ourselves in position to win. And the third thing that I always harp on is rebounding. I always want to win the rebound game. And I honestly think that if we can defend, take care of the basketball, win the rebound game, offense will come. We have kids that can score, you know, but if we don't play defense and we don't take care of the basketball, those opportunities on offense won't come.
Yeah, I mean, I think those are great. Those are all great. So, you know, getting to the end of the interview here, you know, I always ask the coaches, you know, what's something that, you know, have you really considered that we can do to grow the community of the basketball community here, the sport? What can we do to get more fans? What can we do to help the girls get more exposure? Because I mean, when you think about basketball, like look at the top 20 of NewJersey.com. There's 2 South Jersey teams. One's Paul VI, one is Cherokee. Everybody else is from North Jersey or the Shore. You know, we're underrepresented there. I don't know if it's on purpose, but you know, they get more exposure. They play each other, so there's a better way to kind of rate the teams. How can we get South Jersey on the map?
Yeah, I mean, I think just a simple thing is we need to start playing some of those teams. You know, like you think Cherokee just did, Paul VI did, I think, right? Listen, if a South Jersey team, you know, thinks that they belong there, we're gonna start playing some of those teams, you know. And I mean, I'm to fault. I need to start going out and playing some of those teams, you know, because I think that will give us more of a sense of, hey, listen, these teams are just as good, but we don't know them. We haven't seen Shawnee play, you know. And it's so true. Like my girls would say it all the time, like, you know, nobody comes to our games. It's just our parents. You know, why does everyone go to the boys' basketball games? I do. I think we have to find ways to make this, you know, something like, hey, listen, I want to come and watch these girls play. These girls are good. I think what you're doing is phenomenal. And I'm just learning the world, I feel like, of social media. So I think, you know, I've tried to put my girls out there a lot on social media, you know, try to show their statistics and let people see what good basketball players they are. And I think that will not only in turn like help our program, but help them. You know, I think the live stream is great. You know, I told my girls the other day, we had a ton of people on our live stream, whether it was coaches that were scouting us or whatever. But hey, listen, we're gonna have girls that are gonna play college basketball. Think about how many college coaches can now go on and watch you play. You know, I think that exposure is great. But yeah, I would love to see like in the summer, like that league that they do up north. You know, what is it, like the No Boys Allowed or what?
Yeah.
Why don't we have something like that here in South Jersey?
No, time to run one. Time to start one. I'm just gonna start with open. I want to do like an open, just like pickup game at a park. I had plans about it last year. I talked to several parents in our area, but with COVID, I just didn't do it. Like my plan was to go find a park with multiple courts. You know, maybe do either order pizza or, you know, if they have grills, just grill out, let the kids play, but make it that they don't play with their teammates. Like you got to mix up the teams and make it fun. So, you know, Ron Powell told a funny, like an interesting story. He said when he was growing up, he played in a summer league. And when they would play in the summer league, they only let 2 people from the same team be on the same team. So if you're from the same school, like you could only have 2 players. So that means that like, you know, Nia and Avery could be together. You couldn't have anybody else. Or let's say Gabby and Katie or Gabby and Alexa could be together. Then everybody else you would split. So you would have teams of mixed kids from all over the place. And I think that's the way that you make friends and, you know, you meet people, because a lot of these kids you're going to play with or against in college too, if you decide that you want to be there. But I think, you know, we have to have the girls go out there. I mean, Basketball Warehouse on Saturday mornings in the summer, that's where I got the idea. They would bring the girls to a park, and then they would have open runs, and they would actually produce a roster of the girls that would come. They would put the roster on Twitter, and then they would live stream the Twitter of them playing the game. so that coaches could watch.
Mm-hmm.
It was good for the girls because they would go against other competition. I mean, it was just basically a pickup game. It wasn't anything crazy. The kids were having fun. And I think that's the biggest thing too, is like, everybody here stays to their own school. And that's my one observation that I think needs to improve. Like, why can't we go to your game and support you? Why can't you come to our game? Why can't we be friends with the kids from Shawnee and the kids from Shawnee be friends with Cherokee and from all the schools? I'm just using this example. Like if they can, break down the barriers between the teams and, and really just try to get down to forming relationships in the community, I think that's going to make a big difference, because I think, South Jersey basketball has a lot of good teams. But like you said, we don't ever have an opportunity to plan those games unless you really intentionally go out to play. For some teams, maybe it's logistics, like you have these budgets, taking a whole team and budgeting a whole day to go to North Jersey, where it takes you an hour and a half, 2 hours to drive. Maybe it's just not in the cards. But last year at RV was a really awesome event. Anthony Corrado ran that, and they had the Shore versus South Jersey, and it was, the games weren't lopsided. They were very good games. I mean, all day long. If we can, have an event like that again, and then like
I think that's awesome. I really do. I mean, if his idea, that was amazing. Obviously this year would be a wash, but I think that's something that the top teams in South Jersey should do every single year.
Yeah. I mean, in addition to doing the SJBIT, like SJBIT is another thing that it's really good for South Jersey. Now we get those games streamed. I mean, that's the key to getting South Jersey on the map, because it shows up in newjersey.com, like these are the games. But if people from up north can't watch us play basketball, they're not going to want to say, I want to take down that Shawnee team. Like, what's the incentive? They don't know who you are. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They don't know our teams. So they're not going to say, I want to play against Cherokee, unless they've seen Cherokee and say, hey, I want to play against them. I mean, they're not going to go against somebody from all the way down the shore. Like, they're just too far, because you only know the teams that are in your neighborhood, your area. So maybe a goal could be to try to go to play another conference, up north, whether you play Shore Conference, and there's like 40 something teams in Shore Conference, play somebody in Central Jersey, just play somebody that you wouldn't normally play throughout the year. Just give your kids a different experience, give them the experience of traveling and make it a day. I mean, so a lot of people can't afford these huge tournaments where they're going to Florida, where they're going to Kentucky. It's just a lot of fundraising involved, and logistically it's just too much.
It is. We did it one year and it was so expensive, and we barely had practice time. And then, it wasn't really worth it too much.
Yeah, it's so early in the season, and you're playing against teams you'll never ever see again. I mean, but you go to Florida, which is cool for team bonding. But I mean, if we could figure out some different ways to do that, I think that would be phenomenal. I just think that you've done such a great job at Shawnee, and
thank you.
It's fun to watch. I really do enjoy it. I just love the kids, from all the schools. They're great. I mean, the kids are great. I mean, sometimes the tensions get high, but that's the competitive nature of the game. But I think once it's over, the kids are laughing and smiling, and and they're goofy afterwards. And I'd love to see more of that. I love to see kids be kids, and that's really, really important. You talked about the live stream. I had my cousin, so we were during the Paul VI game. My cousin texted me. I haven't talked to my cousin in forever. I mean, probably a couple months. Actually, no, we talked to each other over Thanksgiving, because I made sure we did a Zoom with the family. He says, hey, we're watching the game. My cousin lives in Montreal,
Yeah, I feel like it's something that has to continue.
Yeah.
I really do.
If we can figure out the live stream thing, and really what we need is announcers. If we can get announcers, even if it's on the loudspeaker of the school, announcers on the game, I mean, that's going to help a lot. The one thing that I would have to criticize Shawnee and Cherokee is they have those whatever's protecting the scoreboard blocks the scoreboard, and you can't see the score or the time. I was watching the Cherokee game yesterday, and I couldn't see, like, it. It's the quality of the film isn't great. It's not like 4K or 1080, but you can still watch the game, but you just can't see the scores because it's the old, bulbs. And
yep. And the beams come down. I know. And we've even tried like changing our angle and stuff. But I mean, I watched Wildwood Catholic in Middle Township, and they announced the whole game. It was awesome.
Yeah, that was a really great experience. I think we can do it. I mean, by next year, if you continue doing the live streams, then you get like just kids announcers, get kids from the school that want to do journalism or something like that and make that a part of their class. Paul VI was supposed to do a stream with announcers, I believe. Their AD did it last year. He did with a high school student, but I think right before the game, their feed crashed. So they had to use the huddle camera instead. So that's why.
Okay, yeah, because I had a hard time watching the game. I didn't think I started watching like the second quarter.
Yeah, and the problem too is like on their camera, they had like a ghost image on the right-hand side. And every time it was over, you would like miss the kids. It was really weird. So they have something wrong with the camera. I mean, it's going to get there. I'm hoping, like by the next couple of years, the sport grows. Like I want the gym to be packed for those games like all the time. And I think if we can create some more, friendly rivalries between the schools, I think that would do, because then the kids would be forced to come out because they want to support, their program.
Yeah. We used to do a couple of years ago, we would do some double headers, boy-girl double headers, and I think that would draw, a crowd. I mean, we do it in playoffs sometimes, but we would actually even do some like regular season ones. I think actually when I was at Cherokee, actually. And
that's actually a great idea.
Yeah, we used to do them. We would always do them with like a sister school. We did like one or two of them.
But they haven't done them in years?
No, I know we haven't done one since I've been at Shawnee. I think we've talked about it, and even if we did it with like a sister school, and even you switch it up, like maybe the first game, the girls are first and the guys, and then vice versa, guys play first, girls play second, I think that's a way to kind of, draw more of a crowd.
Well, I think if the girls are first, and this is just talking realistic,
I know.
The boys will come for the second half of the girls' game, and the second half will be filled. If the girls play second, unfortunately, the gym is going to empty out, and you're not going to have a lot of people stay for the girls' game. So I think it's got to be right now, girls first, boys. It could change, but it's just the nature of the beast. I mean, the boys' games are packed. So many people fill the stands, and then the girls could be playing, right after or the next day, and it's empty. There's just not as many people, we capture that crowd, and I think that double header idea is a good one. That's one of the best ideas I've heard so far. So I'm going to give you. So
I was able to provide something.
All right. Well, why don't we finish up and say goodbye? But hopefully, you'll be coming back here, and maybe next year we'll do another interview, and then we'll go from there.
Cool. I love it. It's a great idea what you're doing. Thanks so much.
I got Kendra tomorrow, so.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, I was supposed to have her the other day, but she had to help her aunt shovel her driveway because of the snow. So.
I'll tell you what, she's doing a great job.
Oh yeah, I'm
doing a great job. And I told her yesterday. I said you're gonna have some success. Your team is tough.
And the nice thing is, like, I've been able to watch because they have a YouTube channel. So if I don't get to watch the games, I told her I watched every single one of her games. It's been great. I'm enjoying it because I'd rather watch all the girls play than to watch these terrible TV shows that are on, because all they talk about is COVID. COVID this, COVID that. Oh, they took their mask on. Oh, I got tested. So did I. Okay, they take their mask off. Or like I was watching Chicago Med yesterday, and they're in the emergency room and they're not wearing masks in the emergency room. I'm like, this is crazy. This is not real life.
I know. Yeah. I love the live. My husband doesn't love the live stream. He's like, will you stop watching basketball? But I love it.
Yeah, live stream is a hit. So subscribe to the channels. Then when it pops up, just go right to your feed and it'll just be right there, and you can enjoy all the games.
It's a great thing.
Thanks, Mike. Who's your game against for your senior night?
Cherokee East.
All right. Well, we'll be watching Cherokee East senior night. Good luck to your seniors. Good luck to you as well.
Thank you. Take care. Bye.
Bye.